In this video, we'll have a look at the occupancy calculation function of Shintaro. To get to the occupancy calculation function, from the home screen, we go into Reports and Exports, and Occupancy Calculation. The occupancy calculation needs to be run if you want to produce statistical reports on occupancy and vacancy rates. This needs to be run to produce a number of different reports in the system, such as the NAHA or Data Collection Report and other statutory reports. When we click on Occupancy Calculation, we see this screen. On the left-hand side, we see a record of all the occupancy calculations that we have already run. We see the date we performed the calculation and the period that it covered with the start date and end date in these fields. We can also see the number of days that were calculated. So the calculation that we ran on the 31st of the 8th covers the 1st of the 7th, 2015 to the 31st of the 7th, 2015. This was 31 days and it covered the month of July. When we ran this calculation, what the screen does is it goes through and counts up all of the people that are in each particular room and how many days there are during that period. It also counts how many days the room was vacant tenantable and how many days the room was vacant untenantable. So it calculates three things: if the room is occupied, vacant tenantable, or vacant untenantable, meaning vacant for maintenance or another reason. We can run the calculation as often as you like, but it does take time. The reason we run the occupancy calculation this way, instead of just doing it when we produce the reports, is that sometimes it can take a bit of time, particularly if you've got a lot of data or if you're running it for a long period. Often you will run this calculation when you're about to go to lunch, and it might take you 5 minutes, it might take you half an hour, depending on how much data you have and how long you're running it for. So initially, we'll want to create a new calculation. If we click Create New Calculation, this screen will refresh to the default view. Then we'll want to enter our dates. The calculation date has defaulted to today's date, and we can enter the start date and end date of the calculation. Dates can overlap, but you shouldn't put a date in the future because nothing can be calculated into the future. So let's say we want to do our August reports and we want to make sure that these are up to date. This period has been closed off and now we want to run the reports for August. So we enter the start date as the 1st of the 8th, 2015, and we put the end date as the 31st of the 8th, 2015. Once we've entered those dates in, we click the Calculate button and the calculating begins. This will take some time, and once it's finished the calculation, we get this message: Housing Provider Framework Calculation is complete. Over on the left-hand side of the screen, we see the calculation here in this list, and now we can run the reports for that period. Anytime you tenant someone, anytime you vacate someone, or anytime you set a room to be vacant untenantable, you will need to run the occupancy calculation for that period, otherwise the reports will be wrong.